Most people believe life falls apart because of big disasters. A betrayal, a failure, a sudden loss, but for most people, life doesn't collapse like that. It slowly shrinks. It becomes smaller, quieter, heavier, until one day you realize you're living a version of life you never agreed to. It starts with hope. It always does. You grow up believing effort will be enough. That discipline will protect you. That patience will pay you back with interest. So you do what you're told. You follow the rules. You show up on time. You stay consistent. At first, it feels responsible. Then it feels normal. Then it feels permanent. You wake up early, not because you're motivated, but because you're afraid of falling behind. You rush through mornings that feel identical. You spend most of your energy earning the right to exist comfortably, and nobody tells you this part out loud. Hard work doesn't automatically create freedom. Most of the time, it creates dependency. You trade hours for money. When the hours stop, the money stops. When the money stops, everything else starts to shake. So you keep going. You tell yourself you'll rest later. You'll enjoy life later. You'll slow down later. Later becomes a place you never arrive at. Days blur together. Weeks pass unnoticed. Years disappear quietly. You don't fail. You don't succeed. You just continue. And that's the most dangerous place to be. Because nothing forces a change. You learn to tolerate exhaustion. You learn to swallow frustration. You learn to smile when you don't feel anything. People call this maturity. They call it responsibility. They call it adulthood. But inside, something feels wrong. You're busy all the time, yet nothing meaningful grows. You're surrounded by people, yet you feel alone. You're productive, yet deeply unfulfilled. You stop talking about it, not because you're okay, but because explaining feels pointless. Everyone is tired. Everyone is stressed. Everyone is surviving, so your pain doesn't feel special enough to mention. This is how life traps people, not with pain, but with routine. You start measuring your worth by output, by paychecks, by deadlines, by how little rest you need to function. Rest begins to feel like weakness. Slowing down feels irresponsible. Questioning the system feels dangerous. So you adapt. You adjust your expectations downward. You stop dreaming in full color. You accept good enough as the final destination. And slowly, without noticing, you stop asking for more. The cruel truth is this: most people aren't afraid of failing. They're afraid of starting over. They're afraid of losing what little stability they've built. Afraid of judgment. Afraid of uncertainty. Afraid of being behind at an age where they're expected to have everything figured out. So they stay. They stay in jobs that drain them, in routines that numb them, in lives that don't fit them. Not because it's right, but because it's familiar. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. This is why so many people feel stuck, not trapped by chains, but by comfort zones that slowly turn into cages. They're not lazy, they're not stupid, they're exhausted. Exhausted from pretending this is fine. The world praises hustle but ignores burnout. It celebrates success stories but hides the cost of survival. Nobody posts about the years that disappear, the dreams that quietly die, the passion that fades into obligation. People don't warn you about stagnation. They warn you about failure. But stagnation is worse. Failure hurts loudly. Stagnation erodes silently. It convinces you that this is as good as it gets. You wake up one day and realize you don't hate your life. You just don't feel connected to it. You're present everywhere, but alive nowhere. And the scariest part? You can live like this for decades. You can build an entire life that looks stable, respectable, and successful, while feeling completely empty inside. No collapse, no explosion, no moment dramatic enough to demand change, just quiet dissatisfaction that becomes your baseline. This is the life nobody warns you about. Not the broken one, the acceptable one. The life where nothing is wrong, but nothing is right either. And if you're listening to this and it feels uncomfortable, that's not weakness, that's awareness. Awareness is dangerous, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't keep pretending exhaustion is ambition. You can't keep confusing survival with purpose. You can't keep telling yourself time will fix what time has been quietly destroying. Time doesn't heal misaligned lives. It only makes them harder to escape. The harsh truth is this: if you don't choose your life, you will inherit one, built by expectations, maintained by fear, sustained by routine, and one day, when you finally ask yourself how you got here, there won't be a single mistake to point to. Just thousands of small compromises you were told were normal. That's the reality most people live with, and almost nobody talks about it. Because talking about it would require honesty, and honesty changes things. And here's the part people rarely admit out loud. Many people sense this emptiness early, but they ignore it because everyone else seems to be doing the same. You're told this is just a phase. That feeling lost is normal. That fulfillment comes later. So you wait. You wait for promotions. You wait for weekends. You wait for vacations that end too quickly. You wait for a future version of yourself that finally feels satisfied. But satisfaction doesn't arrive by accident. What actually happens is quieter. You begin to lower your standards for happiness. You stop expecting excitement. You stop believing your life can feel meaningful again. You confuse being busy with being important. You confuse stability with purpose. You confuse comfort with fulfillment. And slowly, you forget what you even wanted in the first place. This is how people lose themselves without a single dramatic mistake. No bad decision, no reckless choice. Just years of choosing what's safe over what's true. The system rewards obedience, not self-awareness. It rewards endurance, not alignment. And most people never stop to question whether the life they're building actually fits them, because questioning it would mean risking everything they've worked to secure. So they keep going. They keep telling themselves this is enough. They keep numbing the discomfort. They keep postponing honesty. Until one day, they realize the cost. Not in money, not in status, but in time. Time they can't recover. Energy they can't get back. Versions of themselves they quietly abandoned. That's when the regret shows up. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet understanding that life was lived carefully, but not fully. And that realization stays with you.